one of the many panels we've done today. This one is a little bit more focused on starting your own indie kind of company. So I suppose without further ado, we can introduce our entrepreneurs. So we'll start at this side. Do you want to talk a bit about who you are and, well, why you're here?
Sure, yeah. Hi, I'm Adrian. Me and my co-founder Rob run a successfully funded mobile studio based in Cornwall. We take a very different approach to mobile. So we kind of come from a PC console kind of focus. We look at games that are doing really, really well in that space. And then we look at how you turn those into really successful mobile titles. I come from PC and console, and then Rob brings the mobile side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Rob Boone. I'm from Belgium. I've kind of dotted around a little bit of Europe to get my experience, and then ended up here to indeed start our mobile game studio with Adrian. And I guess I'm here to give my side of the story.
Excellent, yeah. And it's wonderful to have you both. Keep moving on to this side.
I'm Chris Jones. I co-founded a micro indie studio here in Cornwall, and I'm also an alumni of Falmouth itself. So I'm sort of here to give my side of, like, literally came from the undergrad to the postgrad to now in industry.
Cool.
Yeah, hey, I'm Joe Clark. I'm a co-founder of Studio 316, which was a team that was formed in our third and final year at Falmouth University. And then we went on to Transfuser program and continued, and we're now 2 years into being a work for hire and game dev consultancy company. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, I'm John Arthur Meaken. I'm a co-founder, director, producer, designer, animator, indie dev for Ludophoria, and similar to Joe, started our studio in our third year at university, and we're still going. We're on the self-publish route. So we are unsuccessfully funded, and we didn't get Transfuser. So we're doing it alone.
Well, we didn't win either, so.
No, excellent. It's a nice variety of people we have with us now. So I guess first kind of talking point is, you know, how big are the teams now that you're working in, you know, in your kind of indie studio spaces?
Ours is kind of an interesting one. So we took investment, which normally puts you under a lot of pressure to scale up a massive team very quickly. Fortunately, in some ways for us, the market changed quite dramatically. So we've capped at a team of 5, and that's exactly what we need to do what we're doing right now. We're kind of fortunate in mobile that you kind of know a little bit before it happens whether the game's going to be successful or not, so we can kind of scale a team up around that. But yeah, a very tight team of 5, so we've got 3 programmers, myself as kind of designer / combat programmer, and then a really cool artist who does kind of all of our art.
Oh, excellent. Chris, if you want to hang on, how big is your team?
It's so huge. No, because we're a micro studio, it's literally just like the 3 of us, so myself, Jake and Max. But like we've sort of started to realize that as we progress through the things we're making, we're going to need to upscale. But it's like when and where we can do that.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a team of 5 at the moment as well. We've got 3 full-time and a couple of part-timers with us, and then we have a few freelancers that we look to as well when we've got the workload for it. So still pretty small studio.
Yeah.
We're a team of 9. All of us work second jobs, so yeah, we've got a fairly big team, but it kind of makes up for the fact that we all work slightly less hours than your average 9 to 5.
No, very cool. So that kind of, I think, sets the stage a bit for, well, we already have stage setting, but, you know, that kind of, I think, sets kind of up, you know, for the rest of the kind of questions. So in terms of, you know, how you started out, you know, we can start on this end. You know, what was the kind of driving force to start that kind of business and to take this from just a sort of, I want to make games into, I want to make a business about making games?
Yeah, so it very much comes from a place of not wanting to work for anyone else. Kind of, it's a passion, like the passion to work on our own ideas and IP, kind of create the culture that we want to work in. And generally, like a passion for, obviously, games. If we wouldn't be going through the hardships that we personally have gone through to start our company, were we not massively enjoying making video games. It kind of, you know, makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I think initially for us, it was just out of desire to want to continue working on our third year project. You know, we just wanted that little bit more time to polish up what we had there, and the Transfuser program was a great opportunity for us at the time. So we used that as a little bit of a leapfrog to really start the studio up. And it was only really at Transfuser when we started going through that process that we thought about the idea of, this is going to be a business now, and we're going to start that business up and run it all ourselves. It was only really when we got towards the tail end of Transfuser that started to really hit home. But for me, at least, I think it's just I've enjoyed playing the game of building my business, and I think in terms of motivation, I found it from losing out on Transfuser funding at the end. A big motivation for me was okay, I'll prove you wrong. But yeah, likewise, similar to John, it's also about kind of doing things our own way, not wanting to have other people dictate the rules of how we work and what our processes are. And even if we are working for clients right now, we still have a level of creative freedom that comes with it, especially with the good collaborations that you get.
No, very cool.
When when I first came to Falmouth, I was like, cool, first year in, didn't really know what I was doing. And I was like, yeah, at the end of this, I kind of just want a job of some sort. And that sort of culminated in third year when, like you guys actually, we also put ourselves together as a small team and we're just like, yeah, we can just 3-man team, let's go for it. There are issues with that. But the big thing that we realized was, even if we give it a go, that's still going to look really good in the future, because at the end of the day, we want to work on our own stuff. People like making their own games, and that was sort of the driving force. But also, if in the most horrible way everything crashed and burned, we then could go and put on our CVs and our portfolios. Oh yeah, we started a company, we tried the things. So not only are you getting like a narrative designer or a technical designer, what have you, or any sort of role, you're also getting someone that's gone through the rigmarole of starting a business, and we thought that'd be really valuable. But as we sort of gone through it and we found that what we're doing we're really enjoying, and we seem pretty decent at it as well, it's like, oh okay, we can make our own content and we can push that forward. There's, some days I sit back and I'm like, damn, that's my job, I'm a game dev. And I'm just like, life is good,
Yeah.
It's really nice, it's really good to be back in that situation, I think.
Yeah.
Love
Throw it to this side.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll talk from my side because that probably has a different perspective on it. But yeah, for me it was kind of coming from working in the mobile games industry in other country, and then coming here to Falmouth, and then I was part of the Launchpad program. It gives you a lot of sense of the business aspect of it, and then with my skills of actually, or what I've learned in Finland when I was working there, then kind of putting those two together, I really did not feel that I had any lacking knowledge that would help me in actually going back into working for another company. I really wanted to now apply those skills that I'd learned on both those places to actually get a lot more authority and push that forward, and also just challenge myself within that, because just at a certain point within another company, you're just always a little bit of a cog in the machine, and at some point you just also have a cap of where you don't learn anymore. And so for me, it was kind of a challenge in that it was okay, I think I had all of the skills necessary to try this, and I wanted to try it just to figure out how far I could take it. And then luckily I found a co-founder that complemented that very well. And that's essentially why I jumped into this.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, actually. Yeah. So for me, I'm an old dog compared to you guys, but been around the industry for a long time, worked for a lot of other people, really enjoyed making things for other people, but sometimes felt frustrated that you have your own ideas about how you want to build things and how the direction you want to take things in, and then it can be difficult sometimes when someone else is paying your salary, so you have to do what they say. So for me, I think it was very much hitting that point of ridiculously passionate about games, making games, and the opportunity to do something different in our kind of genre, and to so it kind of started as prototypes in my space, and then it was literally meeting Rob that we really started to talk about, can we actually do this together as a business, and what does that look like? And it's hard, really hard. You have to be pretty dedicated before you go into it. There are periods of no pay, there are periods of intense stress and turmoil where you don't know where your next paycheck's going to come from. But I think at the same time, the rewards are just incredible when you get to wake up. And I genuinely pinch myself from time to time, and I'm sat at my computer being this is what I do. I get to do this thing that I love doing every day. And I also don't get told what to do by anybody else. So yeah, it's I think the passion is a lot of it. It helps get through the difficult times, but I think also there's never really a right time. I think you're either going to do it or you're not. And I think, I came into it a little bit later. And
No,
if you have
all
anything
really
else.
good points. And I probably could have used them all, but I think my next one would be don't be afraid. And I think it applies to so many things, but there's like a very big part of this that involves lots of things that you probably never done before, like going to conference events and like doing one-to-ones with like big investors and all of the all of those kind of things. It's terrifying for sure, but I think trying to embrace it in the moment and actually try and enjoy it and get the most out of it as possible. Otherwise you go to develop and you're there for 3 days, but you don't really embrace it fully, and then that's it. Develop's gone, and you wish afterwards, you spend the next couple of days after develop thinking, oh, I wish I'd spoke to that person a bit more, or I wish I'd reached out to that person and tried to catch them after their lecture. And even down to the level of things like, I did a guest lecture here for the Games Academy not too long ago, and that was terrifying as well. But trying to embrace getting up on the stage and speaking to the students and doing that, I think is a massive part of it. So just embrace it, otherwise it goes in the flash of an eye, and you'll regret some things that you didn't get involved in more.
Yeah, very, very good point. You never know what stuff you might need skills for, so it's always good to broaden yourself.
Yeah, kind of like jumping off of that, similar to engaging with just like networking and making friends because you can rely on them to give you advice when you're in a pinch. People always joke about, you just need to be able to Google search really well to basically do anything, but it's so wrong, like so hard to find out anything off of the internet that's actually either specific enough or actually accurate. Whereas if you know someone that you can just jump on a video call with, but they know the answer because they've done it, and that becomes very efficient. And so actually part of, I think, building up your studio is actually just about becoming, it's just about actually becoming an existing thing in the industry, as in people know who you are, you have people that you can talk to, and it suddenly becomes a lot easier. But another little thing would be about going to events and stuff. Like Joe, you're pretty good. You're a people person. You can talk to people.
I try.
I'm kind of similar, but there are elements of general game development that I suck at. And so surrounding yourself with people that complement your skills and kind of fill the gaps. I think it's probably quite prominent in indie game dev for you to have these powerhouse devs who can do everything. But I think eventually you will figure out where your weaknesses are. And so I guess just generally understanding yourself. You'll probably get really wishy-washy now. You've just got to go on a
spiritual
climb
journey,
up to a monastery, sit and meditate, attain self-awareness. But no, basically, because even today, I had to have someone run over to me and be like, you're on the panel in 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, sorry, I'm just busy talking to everybody. But it's just simple things like that, because it happens day to day in dev. You just come up against reasons why you suck every now and then, and you need people to cover that. And so I think if you're doing a solo dev thing, shout out to Sam Claydon, who's one of the masters. He is doing it on his own, but even more important for him is he's really good at just engaging with everyone around him and making friends. So it's super important.
Yeah, no, I think those are all really, really valid points. And I do love the kind of touching on, you are a team. When you start a team, you should be, hopefully, covering each other's spots.
Yeah, even if there are only 3 of you, you probably...
Still a team.
Yeah.
They can all back to back in a sort of triangle, it's fine. He can squat, it's fine. Yeah, so in terms of kind of, I guess, one of the more serious and kind of scary questions is about kind of keeping the lights on, keeping the company afloat. Whether that's through kind of your own route of not getting published and self-publishing kind of your own piece, or getting funded through other means. What is that process like? Because I think you all have quite different stories for this, which is nice.
Yeah, I can start doing this whole kind of thing where we're going back and
we're
forth.
just ping-ponging it. It's fun.
So yeah, in our case, we had there'll be many students that kind of can relate to this, but we came out of 3rd year doing game dev, learning how to to make games, and then we were like, right, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to start our own company and make our own games. And so we had this like pressure to. We did the master's degree that kind of helped us to like further our skills and knowledge and broaden our minds academically. But at the same time, we were building up the company. It created a time limit, so we were like, right, we need to get a publishing deal before we leave the masters, because obviously we need money to pay ourselves.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we all need to go off and get jobs, and that was the agreement. And so it's going to be interesting because you can Joe's going to say his bit and Chris will say his bit, and they're kind of like we're all branching narratives. Mm-hmm. So we're the example where we were pitching our game to a lot of publishers and we were getting really good reception from the game. We are in the genre of 2D platformers, which anyone that knows the games, it's a very saturated market. And so if you are a businessman, anyone that kind of handles the money, looking at data, it's very easy to determine that it's a very tough market to make money in. And if you are an investor, somebody that is making the return on investment calculations, it's a pretty risky bet. Of course, there is nuance to making a decision. You can look at the team in the game.
Yeah.
So we got to like the end discussion with a lot of people, and it would always end up being like, "Oh, we're not the guys, we're not the publishers to take this to market." So we hit our deadline of we left the master's degree. We hadn't nailed a publishing deal, and we had to make the decision of we either go and get jobs, like as in we go and work for another studio in our specialisms. Or we, some of us carry on. And we all found ourselves sitting around the table like, right, cool, this is it, go off and get jobs, go and, we've been building our portfolios, go find interviews. But no one left, basically. We're all like, oh, we're quite happy to just carry on, this is pretty cool. I guess our team, Ludophoria, we represent one case, and that scenario is you haven't found a means of funding, you need to still live and pay for food and pay for rent. You've just got to compartmentalize, So we have, all of us have a job that is not developing our game, but it allows us to, on average, I think we have devs that do 1 day a week, some of us do 2 or 3, some more. So you just got to be committed. Like we mentioned, passion earlier. You can only really push yourself to do that if you are really wanting to do it. Mm. But that is a route. We're doing it. We're now on track to release the game early 2024. And we're doing our own marketing strategy, and we're developing the game, but we're also doing another job.
Yeah.
But so that is a route you've just got to,
Yeah, it's easy, right? Easy, just do it.
Well,
yeah.
You've got to be comfortable with making enough money on the side to continue doing that.
Yeah.
But it's a sacrifice.
That provides a bunch of struggles, staying motivated and keeping the energy up.
Yeah, and it's not sustainable eternally. We're riding on the fact that we need our game to sell enough for us to. I think Chris, you mentioned it earlier, but just releasing that game alone should be good enough for us to then chase investment, publishing, that kind of thing. But a lot's riding on that. But it is a route.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, big props for even doing it, because I don't think I would have been able to have part-time trying to build the studio the way that we've been doing it. I think very, very different from us because we got to the end of Transfuser, our game didn't get the funding, it was a multiplayer first-person shooter, so we all knew how that was going to go. And we realised that we had to make some big decisions in the team, ones that we probably wouldn't like initially because we all love the game so much, but it involved just putting it in the freezer and letting it sit. And at that point, we thought, well, if we're not working on the game, what are we working on? And it was working on things for other people. And I think, the motivation is still and always will be working for other people to allow us to work for ourselves so that we can make our own games. That's always what we're aiming towards. And it's looking like that's going to be the case as well. We've been able to kind of bring on a range of different client projects. All of them will be able to help us in our ultimate goal of creating a game in the end of it as well. But yeah, hopefully by the end of this year, we're going to be using funds that we have put together through work for hire to spend on our own game. So it's been a couple of years of lots of heavy biz dev and networking, and lots of trial and error as well, especially with the way we work with clients and how we estimate how much projects cost and how we go about project planning for 4 consecutive projects all at one time with a team of 5. It's that kind of thing can get pretty complicated. So it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's been pretty intense. So
Yeah.
what was that process like of kind of finding clients to work for? Was that an
I've heard
easy
you're
thing?
working with quite a tough client at the moment.
He's got a beard and he has a bloody top knot and he no, it's initially I think we got lucky, and I say luck in not that luck exists and it's this magical thing, in that I put myself in the right place at the right time and just happened to get lucky in that kind of sense. It was just through pure networking. It was back in first year I met someone who was part of a big gaming and esports marketing agency called Heaven Media, and I met them in the first year. When I got to third year, I pitched the game to them for literally the sake of practice for Transfuser. They gave us some feedback, they kept in touch, and then by the time we finished on Transfuser, they found out we were doing work for hire, and they said, oh, well, we've got something that needs work for hire. So it's one of those kind of things where I've reached out to someone and I maintain that connection, and which I think is the most important thing. Like making that initial contact with someone is great, but it's actually about making them feel like you're not just connecting with them to get something out of them.
Yes.
I think that is really important. So that's kind of how it came about, and it just leapfrogs from there. We took on one project and someone heard we did work for hire, and they're like, okay, I'll keep you in mind. And then you find partners that will start kind of consecutively bringing you leads and things that you can work on. So yeah.
No, excellent. Yes, I suppose now it's time for your story.
Well, I guess it's can be a little short. I think it's kind of what you also said with the work for hire stuff, because we chased to keep everything like on and your company floating and everything. There is this moment where you come to the end of your undergrad or whatever. Really, it's the beginning of taking that step into, okay, we're a business now. We are a team, but we're not a team. We are a business trying to become something. Where it's like, oh damn, people are buying things and that requires money and you need money and stuff. And it was just, you needed to be hungry for, like hungry for the opportunities in a way. I don't know how to say it in a really nice way, but it was like, oh cool, Transfuser, go for it. We're just all in. We're doing that. What's the next one? Develop, all in. We're doing that. Like all these different ways of communicating and networking with people. We actually had this moment where we were working on our own IP, because we were like, cool, we can work on this IP and go and pitch to people. And then we realized that we were going to run out of money. We can't work on our own IP if we're not living. So we were like, oh, we'll work on our own IP X amount of days, and then we will seek out opportunities for work for hire in the other days if there is. And we actually got told that was a really bad idea. And that was almost like, I can't remember who said it earlier. It was like, I think you mentioned about in spite of something, to in spite of something. We had this oh, you shouldn't do that, that's a bad idea. And in spite of that, we were like, we're going to double down. Yeah, okay, cool. No, we did do that though. And we successfully created a project for someone, whilst we were also deving on our own stuff. That produced funds that then allowed us to ease and facilitate additional communication, which, sort of leads on to whatever comes next.
Yeah.
I just really want to, I've said kind of a lot of wishy-washy things, but I want to nail down what I'm saying here, which is the main thing about making money, for a company. I feel if you are coming into this and be like, yeah, I'm going to make loads of money straight away, you are, I think that is a delusional sense. Because it really is, because, it is a hard industry, right? You got to be aware that you come into this and it's it is really tough. You got a lot of competition. All of the numbers are massive. But that also means that if you are successful, the potential of the numbers is massive, right? So you really just got to chase those opportunities. And also, don't be afraid to just, right, that didn't work, next. Point in case being, Rustbreaker, we worked on Rustbreaker for the transfuser thing, and for the whole commission. We actually had some funding for that. We realized that would take 3 years to make, and we had no audience coming out to that. And then you develop 3 years worth of stuff for that, and it's like, cool, there's no one there to release it to. We're like, cool, we spent 2 years working on this, goodbye, next. And then just transitioned over to Lexman, and just work on the next piece of product. Just be hungry for the opportunities and success, I guess. I don't know,
Seek success and you'll find it.
Seek success, yes.
Yeah, we can.
I think to keep the lights on. I mean, of course, because we got funding, it's a much different approach. But I think to like start it off, it's like a combination of three things, which is experience, potential, and like risk. In a sense that, like, yes, starting out a studio and then getting funding, or even getting funding from a publisher kind of thing. The team's experience is very important in that, and that is probably a big factor of like, okay, are you going to get any money to get this done? And as a graduate, much harder to do, and that's a problem that we didn't have. We both worked in the industry at some point, so that was a big thick in a lot of like investors' minds already. Then potential is what are you creating and how far can it go? We work in mobile games. The potential is insane. So that is something that an investor, when they look at just the bottom line, are interested in. In essence, they are a bit gambling a little bit, but with a indie game or with any kind of other like normal games, you can kind of, before you even start developing, calculate how much you can possibly maximum, if you hit everything out of the ballpark, how much you can make out of that kind of a game. And that's something that we can do as well. But because the potential is so high, that then immediately becomes quite attractive. And then the risk is the third factor in that, and that's mitigated by the experience and the potential. And both of those together is essentially what I think is like, at least like the most important to keep the lights on in the first place from an investor's perspective. I think I'll keep it there.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I think we have sort of two stages to our company. We have the invested stage, which is very different to the pre-invested stage. The pre-invested stage was exactly like you guys. We were working round the clock. I'd work a full-time day job. I'd then pick up my work at 6 o'clock and work till 2 o'clock in the morning. Did that for months and months. Rob was working for 6 months unpaid. It was really, really tough, and it is a very different space. But I think it is I think one of the things that's good for us, maybe compared to some of the other investing companies, is we're stingy as we are so stingy. we just don't want to spend the money, because the whole thing is that, like, from my perspective, I'm not actually that interested about how much money's in the bank. It's how many months of people that makes, and like what can we do with this time, and where can we get to with that kind of space. So I think that's the thing that's kind of most interesting is originally, we had this conversation multiple times. All we really cared about when we started our company was just covering our salaries. That was it. We just wanted to be able to do this full time. That was the dream. And then we got a bit further and we're like, cool, now we want to bring on some people that are going to help us do this thing. But I think lots of studios, I mean, it's really great to have such a diverse, for you guys anyway, in terms of a diverse setup, because I know studios that are hugely successful that started work for hire. I know studios that are hugely successful just doing what you're doing in terms of like lots of people working part-time, and then you get that game out. And I know, people in some situation where they've been working for a while, doing work for hire, pivoting. I think one of the things I would say is the experience helps, and it is a lot harder when you don't have a published title as a company. When you've got one published title, it doesn't actually technically have to be successful, it just has to be out. Because it shows that you can put a game together, it shows you can hold a vision, it shows you can release to a store, it shows you can do a mark. You've got the whole kind of picture. So I think survivability is probably the key thing, and just figuring out there's no shame in not doing it full time. If you're doing it and you're focused on it and you're getting there, it won't happen necessarily overnight. It is a lot harder to get money when you've got less experience, but it's totally doable. And you can go from inexperienced to really experienced in quite a short period of time by releasing a game. So I think, just kind of keep going really, and don't focus too much on making loads of money. Think more about how do we stay alive so that we can, create, as a group of creatives, we can make something really cool. It probably won't work the first time, so let's make sure we've got runway for at least 2 or 3 shots on target, kind of thing. So,
one thing, to add to that, because you reminded me of it, is that like within the risk part of it, is that when you are getting money, or it is about positioning what you have to have as many chances to hit the spot as you can. So like that is building that technology, building that team, so that you can maybe in a short amount of time get to a point where you can discover, okay, is this potential, and then immediately push it away, do something else. So the harder approach to do with indie or like PC and console, although I do think there is space for that to do it in, wherein you kind of just build more of like a tech stack, and then you have about 5 different ideas that you can build out on that. Presenting that to an investor is much more attractive than this game is gonna make money. No, it's we're gonna make 5 different games over the next 2 years. One of them is gonna hit, kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I think the core kind of theme that's come through is about drive, and it's about resilience. It's about, not everything will be a winner, but if you can take enough shots, one of them might be.
Yeah.
So, well, I think that's all the questions I have time for, but we're going to open up to the floor if there's any questions amongst the audience. Okay, well, calm yourselves. We can do one at a time. We'll start with you.
What do you think was the greatest challenge you guys had when you were trying to make your own studio?
Ooh, greatest challenge when you were making your studios. That's a very good question. Any of you want to say, other than, making a studio?
My list is long, so...
I want to hear what you guys say, because I don't know, it's hard to tell. It'd be interesting to see from your perspective, and I'll try and fill some blanks in.
Yeah, I mean, for me at least, I think like we all came through game development degrees, so we knew at least, in a sense, to a level, the development cycles of games and how to produce that. But on the business side of things, we all had no clue whatsoever. So I think there's like a very steep learning curve when it comes to understanding your business and how everything functions, making sure that everything's compliant and legally correct. Accounting and finances is like a completely different beast as well that needs probably an accountant to help you with. So for me, I think the biggest challenge was just being the biz dev man for the studio and trying to make sure that all of that was squared away, because yeah, I think, when you're trying to develop your own game, there's almost 2 businesses there, and you've got the business of your game, and then you've got the business of your actual studio. So, for me, it was understanding the biz dev side of things.
I probably would have said the same thing, especially coming from, a game dev degree, as in we've just been learning how to make games. It's different if we operate around people that are classically business trained from the Launchpad, because that's where our workspace is, of course. And it's interesting to see the different mindsets. But the difference between just understanding a business and then knowing how to make a game, they are 2 completely separate beasts. And so, trying to wrangle both of them together can be quite difficult. But if I was to add a fresh challenge, the other greatest thing, at least from our scenario, is, in our case, trying to make like this one this one kind of great product to get us going, trying to maintain a team around that are not being paid is insanely hard. And so, you kind of mentioned it earlier, you guys, but like the fact that having such like a tight, solid team that you could trust and have the skills to do it is so important. Like that's the basis of any company, is having the people that are skilled, passionate, and willing to do that. And so for us, it's just been, how do we, as a collective of devs, we've been trying to, support each other weirdly in a way, to like almost trying to sort each other's jobs out every now and then as well. Like, there's, trying to give each other opportunities just to keep us afloat and keep them on the team, because, at some point, like we've had a few devs just have to be like, I've got to go and get a full-time job. And so dealing with that, that's make or break for a studio. If you have enough core members leave, then you'll probably essentially have to start again, because tech stack, building a tech stack is one thing. Having the team that knows how it works and operates, keeping those people on board is also incredibly imperative. I'll leave it at that.
This is going to be a weird one, I think. You all have a lot of advice given to you. So much advice. But a game studio, especially like an indie studio, comes from a creative place as well as a business place. We're going to put the business thing aside for a moment. Everyone's creative processes are slightly different, That's their studio. My advice for certain things will probably differ from other studios present here. Understanding what makes your studio is probably the hardest thing, and having that power of self to be like, I understand what you've said. I don't think I want to do it like like not being like, yeah, I'm just agreeing on your advice, but like, yeah, take on your advice, but like actually, that's not the studio we want to be. We're going to be doing it this way, you know. So I think that's the hardest thing.
You should have gone first.
Yeah.
Just front load everyone's advice with
Yeah.
pinch of salt.
I really do think that it's difficult because there's this whole thing of like you're starting in, you're like, yeah, I want all this advice, I want whatever I can get my hands on. But yeah, I think being able to pick and choose which one actually works for you is really important.
Just take everything with a pinch of salt, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it's like understanding your dynamics, right, as a team and as a studio. Because we all represent a very kind of different scenario, I guess, or maybe at least in different stages. But knowing who to take that advice from and when, who most relates to you, I guess, in terms of situation. Sorry?
Like how we teach Agile.
Yeah.
It's what you make of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Everyone.
so we'll quickly jump over the side. For you guys, what do you think?
Maybe just keep it short. One thing, as a dev founder, being able to zoom in and out. So you're constantly making your game, you're constantly like thinking about that, but then you also need to zoom out and think about the business side, being the bigger picture. And being able to jump between those is quite challenging, just because you want it to make as best as possible, but then also sometimes you just need to look back and is it like, does this feature even matter in the grand scheme of things? Like, is the stress that I'm putting into this even valid? That is a big challenge that is still, to us, I think, ongoing, where we just need to jump back and forth.
Yeah, I think you stole my thunder, man. Like, I'm going to say exactly the same thing. I was just like, that shift in focus. You're there having the time of your life, making an amazing enemy for your game, and you're just purely in complete creative freedom, and then suddenly you get an email and you have to jump into US tax law, and it's just like the being able to compartmentalize and flip between the two, I think, is probably the hardest thing, actually, because I think you do get into it because you're creative and you want to make amazing things, but it is a business at the end of the day, and there's a lot of stuff that comes with the business. So I think, the flipping is probably the most challenging thing. And I think the other thing is, again, this is tying into what you're saying about taking advice. Like, this is purely personal, but for me, I've been in creative industries for a very long time, and I actually think maintaining your sanity and your restfulness is incredibly important. And the theory for me is that if you're exhausted and you're working round the clock because you have to, because you're running a business, your creative ideas tend to be rubbish. They're not good because you're not in a good space and you're not in that happy space where you're coming up with really cool stuff. So I think actually maintaining your own mental health is actually a really important part of trying to build and run a business. It'd be fine if you're doing an accounting firm. You could kind of get away with being a bit crazy because you're not trying to come up with interesting ideas of new things. But in a games company, you do need to be able to take those moments. So I think, just looking after yourself, I think, is probably one of the hardest things, actually. Like, there's never a point in your life when there isn't 1,000 things you should have already done. So being able to just be okay with that and still go to the beach occasionally and
touch some grass,
good,
get some fresh air,
yeah, for sure.
Well, I've already been given the cue to say that we've run out of time, so we won't be taking any further questions, but obviously feel free to pester these folk after. I'm sure they'll be happy to answer your questions there. But before we wrap up, obviously thank you all for taking the time to join us now. Is there anything to shamelessly plug, which I know is very dangerous with a bunch of entrepreneurs in the room, but is there anything you want to shamelessly plug, your studios, anything? Where can people find you? Where can they follow your projects? You guys want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So we're True Players. We are genuinely trying to do something different. So we'd love to have console players, PC players play our games. Our latest title is an extraction RPG on mobile. We think we're the first. We don't think anyone else has done it yet. And it's not full of horrible microtransactions and stuff. And there's stuff in there. But maybe check it out if you want to play something a little bit different. But also,
Escape from Darker Lands.
It is called Escape from Darker Lands.
Available on Android so far.
So far, iOS coming, and also for the students in the room, please do send us demos of your game because we'd love to play new interesting things and give you guys feedback if that's helpful.
Yeah, cool.
Lexman on Steam. What's the game we're working on at the minute? Adventure narrative puzzler. It's really cool. Please take a moment to take a look at it.
Yeah.
I'm not really allowed to talk much about what we work on, but we've got loads of stuff coming up, so we're probably looking for some really talented developers and programmers and stuff. So if you are looking for jobs, just send us an email because we'd love to hear from as many people as we can.
Yeah. So you can chase them about emails. Is there an email that you want people to?
Oh enquiries@studio316.co.uk.
Cool. There you go.
Another Steam plug. Our Steam page for Arm of Satan should be going live, hopefully, tomorrow, and if not, Monday. But if anyone's on our Twitter, at Team Ludophoria, or on our Discord, we're going to be doing a shout out for when the Steam page goes live, and wish lists are an incredibly important kind of metric for us to build up. And so if you want to support us, that is the best way. And we would massively thank you for wish listing it there.
Well, once again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you everyone here and those watching remotely. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully there's been some useful stuff, and do feel free to pester them on the way out. But that is the end of this panel. So yeah, thank you everyone.